Let's now switch as we go down this alphabetical order to Canopy Growth. Interesting podcast we had earlier this week with Bruce Linton, and I'm anxious to see what you both think on this company. So let's first focus on the positive. They're maintaining $789 million in cash and cash equivalents on the balance sheet as of December 31, 2022. Their well-established relationship with Constellation. They have excellent corporate brand recognition and some well-known individual brands. The negatives, though, they have an astounding, negative $146 million in free cash flow in Q3. Big time losses quarter after quarter. Questions about financial controls with restating of BioSteel financing results and ceased trade disorder, which happened earlier this month. So, Ben,
management ceased trade order. Big difference.
Management, exactly. Yeah. So, I guess we'll start with you then, Ben. Sink or swim, Canopy Growth.
I'm going to go with swim. Obviously, they've been a dumpster fire lately for all the reasons that you stated. Class action lawsuits have been there as well. Management ceased trade order. Things don't seem to be going right. They're losing a ton of cash, and there's no growth there. Growth has been sort of edging down sequentially quarter after quarter, pretty much over the last 2 years. So on the face of it, it looks like, this company may not be around, but we still got to keep in mind they have about $789 million on the balance sheet, way down from $5 billion. But, they still have some money there. They still have the backing of Constellation. And I think the biggest thing for me is they still have strong U.S. assets. They have interest in TerrAscend. They have interest in strong brands like Wana Brands and a few others. So they are positioned if federal U.S. federal legalization does happen. And I think with that brand recognition, they'll find a way. That brand recognition is going to go far because they, for better or for worse, are the best known company in the space. And I think that that's going to result in them carrying the day as they right size and reorg and try to get their balance sheet in order.
Anthony, this stock has dropped below $1. Sink or swim?
I mean, I find it pretty funny because if you had Ben and I both give our answers at the exact same time, we probably have the exact same answer. There's nothing that he just said that I don't agree with.
Okay.
I see them as a swim. Their stock is dog shit right now. It's trading at around 70 cents in the US. So the chart is ugly. The trend is ugly. The news is ugly. But I'm a firm believer that the U.S. is going to be the largest legal cannabis market in the world once it gets its shit together.
Yeah.
So from a regulatory perspective, there's risk there. There's huge risk there. But if this does go legal, Canopy's got Wana, Canopy's got Acreage, Canopy's got Canopy USA Holdings ready to roll. They've got the share of TerrAscend. They've got cash, and they've got the most sophisticated alcohol distributor on planet Earth as their cornerstone investor and their parent company in Constellation. If I was going to bet on a company being able to scale at lightning speed and understand retail distribution as well as brand portfolio management, I would bet Constellation's going to be able to do that. Big cannabis is going to be the same as big alcohol. They know how to run a highly regulated, sophisticated consumer packaged goods business. And that's why I'm going to have to say Canopy is going to swim long term.
Okay.
It sounds like it was a little bit of a cross between being a libertarian and being, and I know this about you, you're about states' rights, and the fact that you had some personal experience with it in your past. So with that being said, maybe you could give, the country is looking for, state policy to be deconflicted from federal policy. And one of the amendments that is coming through right now is I'm sure you've heard of safe banking. And I think that maybe you could provide some context of what it took to get the Rohrabacher-Blumenauer Amendment through at the time. And if you could get a little bit nuance into the process so that we could take your successful ability to get it through, and maybe we can, by you educating us, we can have a better understanding of trying to decide for ourselves from the information we're getting from various senators and congressmen and committees and markups and things like that, if we think it might pass this Congress.
Well, first of all, remember, you're not just talking about changing a vote on Capitol Hill. You're talking about making sure that you've got a political momentum built outside of Congress to accomplish your mission in Congress.
Right.
That makes sense to you. If you're just talking, oh, we're going to make deals with these congressmen, we're going to give them a campaign donation or something like that, doesn't work.
Okay.
Not fundamental things, it doesn't. And whether or not people are going to be free to put cannabis in their body or not, that's a major decision as far as I'm concerned. And also, especially when it concerns medical use of marijuana. Now, I stopped smoking marijuana, as I said, after a couple of years because I didn't find it good for me. But I will tell you right now, I utilize marijuana in the sense that the CBD oil. I'm a surfer, okay?
Yeah.
And I surfed all my shoulders away there, and I got metal shoulders. Well, it hurts sometimes, but if I put the CBD oil and salve on it, I don't have any more pain. My goodness, I'm able to sleep through the night because now, why is it anybody's consideration to take that away from, especially from seniors? So anyway, to answer your question is, we've got to make sure if we're get anything done, you have to mobilize people outside of the power structure to change the congressman. You don't just go and pay off the congressman in some way.
I've spoken to a few practitioners as well that are actually running ketamine clinics in New York.
Yeah.
And they talk about how you come in, it is quick and it hits you real fast in a hurry. I still feel like in a lot of ways for people that are apprehensive about the industry, is that a little bit too moving a little too quick? Are people intimidated by that sort of thing? But then the response I get, it's no MDMA. When MDMA does get approved, yes, it will take longer, but
it's a
5,
different
6 hours if somebody's like contemplating suicide, right?
Well, and not only that, but and we've talked about this a bit recently too. But if you think about the problem that MDMA is looking to solve, and one of the things people talk about is like the financial commitment with MDMA therapy, of which we believe Numinus will have MDMA being fully reimbursed day one of launch. But there's some recent data that just came out that shows that the average person suffering with PTSD is a $20,000 a year burden on the healthcare system. So
$20,000.
$20,000.
How is that broken?
$19,800 to be exact.
Where'd they come up? How do they figure that math? Do you know?
Well, it's a collection of a diagnosed person, and then kind of all the criteria of medications, therapy, whether they've been displaced by work, all of that. There's a whole bunch of criteria that goes into it, but and there's a public.
That's an important stat to understand.
Well, and not only that, but if you think about insurance providers, right?
Yeah.
So the cost of, and we won't know until it gets FDA approved, but we think the cost for MDMA therapy is going to be somewhere in the realm of like $10,000 to $15,000, which is, almost half of what the annual economic burden of a person suffering with PTSD is, right?
So when we looked at the AMA approving those insurance codes, and I have asked this question with a few others, Cody Chandra was on recently with us, and he's like, under my understanding, that's what I believe, is that the insurance will cover those costs. So is that what you're hearing? Like, just to confirm for people to understand, based on the American Medical Association improving insurance codes, you get MDMA therapy, whether it's the 6 to 8 week, I don't want to say course, but like therapy, more or less. That is going to be reimbursed by insurance companies.
Yeah. So I can talk a little bit more about that. So one of the things that I think this gets a little bit confused for people as well is, so take Spravato for an example, right? Spravato is the
Yep.
ketamine drug that gets reimbursement. But typically, the only thing that is getting reimbursed is the drug, right? And we know in psychedelic therapy, the bigger cost is the actual therapy itself. And so
Okay.
one of the things that Numinus has done is we've created an insurance pathway and network where we get not only reimbursement for the drug, but we also get reimbursement for the therapy. About 80% of all of our ketamine therapy, inclusive of the therapy, gets covered under insurance. Going to MDMA, this code from the American Medical Association is a billing code for long form psychedelic therapy.
And that means
So essentially what it means is it actually helps address the bigger cost, which is the therapy, and the drug. There'll be lots of opportunity for reimbursement on the drug. The bigger thing is the therapy. And the fact that the American Medical Association is getting out in front and approving a billing code for long form psychedelic therapy is huge. It's a huge signal.
what do you think their rationale and thinking is to make a decision like that? The American Medical Association, like it's pretty staggering stats they must be seeing, correct?
Huge. I mean, and anybody can go online. There's a feasibility study that MAPS did that shows the potential alleviation, financial alleviation off of the healthcare system with MDMA assisted therapy, and it was something like $100 million a year. And so, from a financial standpoint, there's a huge reason to not only open up access, but financially support MDMA therapy, and then ultimately other psychedelic therapies as well.
So Satoshi Nakamoto comes along, and whoever he, she, they are, it's probably a group of people, okay? They created this amazing thing, this third ledger. So now I have a ledger, Anthony has a ledger, and there's the perfect ledger. There is truth, not trust. We don't have to trust it. It's truth. It is permanent, immutable, encrypted, not violable, not bribable, not corruptible, like this current system. And he and I can trust it. And here's the cool part. We don't have to be proximate. We don't have to exchange the money physically. We don't even really have to know each other. We could be pseudonymous.
Why do you think younger generations just embraced this technology so
Why?
quick?
Because
they grew up
in
with
2008.
it. They grew up
with
in
it,
their
but history
hand.
has shown previous generations to say, this is what we did, this is what we grew up on, this is the system that you should follow into play. But this generation just like threw a bomb and said, screw this,
Technology
I'm going to
reached
do my own thing.
The technology reached scale to where it could be mass adopted by that generation. And they've gotten screwed their entire lives, for the most part.
That's the big part. Now, the other thing is, when there's a huge dislocation, right, people are scarred, right? My grandparents' generation abhorred debt.
Yeah.
Debt was evil.
Yeah.
You didn't even have a credit card. In fact, I say I don't have one with me, but when I speak, I'll show people a credit card. I'll say, "What is this?" I say, "Oh, it's a credit card." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's a debt card." How much would you use it if it was called a debt card? You wouldn't. In the old days, if you were in debt and you couldn't pay, you went to debtor's prison.
Yeah.
You were fed bread and water.
Yeah.
And then if you didn't pay after a year, they beheaded you. They literally, being a debtor was bad. Now,
Real
if you have a big
estate
line
bad.
of credit,
Like, you know what I mean?
if you have a big line of credit, you're a big man, a big one. You're, the more credit you have, the better. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
JP Morgan said it best. Gold is money. Money is an asset that exists in the absence of liability. Everything else is just credit. Everything else is just debt. And so what happened to this generation, global financial crisis, the banks violated our trust. They made a bunch of bad loans to all kinds of bad things, sliced and diced and securitized and sold the risk, and everyone got rich, and it collapsed. And then they got bailed out. And so the generation was like, whoa, if I can't trust that system.
Yeah, exactly.
I trust it. Think about this. If you get lost, do you stop and ask directions?
No.
No. Especially not in the South. Because in the South, they'd say, well, go to where the oak tree was and take a right, and then go to where the general store was and take a left. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I haven't lived here for 20 years. So you trust code. And Bitcoin is code. Crypto is code. And code is inviolable. Here's the thing. The Bitcoin blockchain is the most powerful computer in the world. All it is a computer. It's a networked series of computers. It is 1,500x more powerful than the CERN supercomputer. Not 1,500%, 1,500 times more powerful.
Can you repeat that again?
So the Bitcoin blockchain, right, the Bitcoin network, so the network of all the nodes, the computers, all the GPUs and the ASICs that are pointed towards the algorithm, that computer is 1,500 times more powerful than the CERN supercomputer.
Wow.
Here's the thing. It's been up for 14 years, 99.99992% of the time, almost no downtime, hundreds of millions of transactions, not one fraudulent transaction.
Yeah, that's a big one. Hey everyone, so how are you surviving these tough market conditions right now? Are there any emerging industries that you want us to cover? Any guests that you want us to interview? Then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to source out. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like and notification bell, and as usual, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.